I don't expect anyone to feel bad for me after hearing this story. If anything, I probably deserve the opposite. What happened to me that winter was the closest thing to punishment I've ever experienced, and maybe that's why I've never told anyone about it before. Back then, I made money doing things I knew would eventually catch up to me. I wasn't some hardened criminal or gang member. I wasn't robbing banks or hurting people for fun. I just found a way to exploit people, and once I realized how easy it was, I kept doing it. I worked for a small appliance repair company for about 8 months. Mostly refrigerators, washing machines, heating systems, things like that. The company serviced a bunch of small towns spread across rural counties, and most days I worked alone. That job gave me access to something dangerous: information. Every work order had names, addresses, phone numbers, and usually notes about the customer. Elderly couple, lives alone, spare key under flower pot, customer works night shifts, dog friendly, alarm disabled during repair. People trust repairmen more than they should. At first, I was honest. Then one day I noticed a woman leave an envelope of cash sitting out on the kitchen counter. While I repaired her dishwasher, she stepped into another room for maybe 30 seconds. I took $200. She never noticed. That feeling stayed with me afterward. Not guilt, excitement. After that, I started paying attention during service calls. I'd noticed jewelry boxes left open, medication cabinets, safes hidden behind pictures. I started taking small things, little amounts of cash, nothing obvious enough to immediately alert anyone. Eventually, that wasn't enough anymore. I began revisiting homes, only houses where I knew people were gone. I knew their schedules because I had been inside their homes. I knew which couples visited grandkids every weekend. I knew which old men went fishing every Thursday morning. I knew which people never locked side doors. The first few times, I only stayed a minute or two. I'd go inside, take something small, and leave. Then I started lingering. There was something deeply wrong with me back then, because I enjoyed walking through strangers' homes while they had no idea, looking through photographs, sitting in their kitchens, standing silently in their bedrooms. It made me feel powerful. One December afternoon, I got a repair ticket for a farmhouse about 40 minutes outside town. The customer was an older man named Walter. His furnace had stopped working. The place sat completely isolated at the end of a long gravel road surrounded by dead fields and woods. Even during daylight, the property felt wrong. The farmhouse leaned slightly to one side like it was sinking into the ground. Walter entered the door wearing dirty overalls and staring at me with cloudy eyes that never seemed to blink enough. The smell inside the house hit me immediately. Not strong enough to make me gag, but enough to sit in the back of my throat. Walter acted strange the entire time I repaired the furnace. He barely spoke. Every answer was short and delayed, like he needed extra time to process simple questions. What really stuck with me was the hallway. There were at least 20 locks on one door at the end of it. No exaggeration, deadbolts, sliding locks, chains, even one of those hook and eye locks people use on sheds. I remember joking about it. What's in there? Walter just looked at me for a second too long and said, "Something that used to belong outside." I laughed because I assumed he was senile. He didn't laugh back. Before I left, I noticed something else. A large metal key hanging beside the back door with a red tag attached to it, basement. That word stayed in my head the whole drive home. A few days later, I went back. I told myself I was only curious. That was the lie I always used before doing something terrible. Walter's truck was gone when I arrived. The house sat dark and quiet under falling snow. I parked down the road and walked the rest of the way. The back door was unlocked. The smell was worse this time. Not just rot. Wet dirt, mold, something metallic underneath it all. I used my flashlight sparingly as I moved through the house. The place looked different without Walter there. Dirtier, more abandoned. I noticed deep scratches along parts of the hallway walls like something heavy had been dragged repeatedly through the house. Then I saw the locked door. All the locks were gone. Every single one. The door stood slightly open. I should have left right then. Instead, I pushed it open farther. The room beyond was empty except for a narrow staircase leading downward. Basement. I remember standing there listening. At first, nothing. Then movement. Not loud, just slow shifting sounds somewhere below me. I whispered hello like an idiot. No response. I told myself it was probably pipes or rats or the furnace. Still, I started down the stairs. The basement was massive, much larger than the house above should have allowed. dirt floor, stone walls, weak hanging bulbs casting yellow light, and cages, animal cages, some small, some enormous. Most empty. One wasn't. At the far end of the basement, something moved behind a stained sheet hanging over one of the cages. I froze. My first thought was dog. Then the thing stood up. It was too tall. The sheet shifted slightly and I saw fingers wrap around the bars from inside the cage. Human fingers. I backed up so fast I nearly fell. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. Walter. I killed my flashlight instantly. The basement lights clicked off a second later, plunging everything into darkness. I heard Walter moving slowly above me. Then silence. I stayed completely still. That's when I heard breathing beside me. Not upstairs. In the basement. Close. Very close. A voice whispered from somewhere in the dark, "Don't let him hear you." I almost screamed. The voice sounded human but weak, raspy, exhausted. Then I heard another sound, metal creaking. The cage door opening. I ran. I didn't care how much noise I made anymore. I sprinted toward the stairs while hearing movement explode behind me in the darkness. Heavy movement. Fast movement. I hit the stairs and slipped halfway up them. Something slammed into the wall below me hard enough to shake the staircase. I looked back for 1 second. Big mistake. I saw something pale and enormous crawling across the basement floor on all fours. Not an animal. Not fully human either. Its limbs were too long. Its face looked wrong somehow, stretched unnaturally wide. I remember wet strands of hair hanging over glowing eyes reflecting the basement light. Walter shouted from upstairs, "Get back down there!" The thing screamed. I've never heard anything like it before or since. It sounded almost human. Almost. I burst through the basement door and into the hallway. Walter stood there holding a shotgun. He looked terrified, not angry, terrified. He pointed the gun past me toward the basement, closed the door. Something slammed into the stairs below. Walter fired into the darkness. The blast deafened me. I ran for the back door while hearing Walter screaming behind me. Another gunshot echoed through the house, followed by crashing sounds and this horrible animal shrieking. I made it outside and slipped in the snow trying to reach my car. Then I realized my tires were flat. All for. At first I thought Walter had done it. Then I saw the tracks, long dragging marks, circling my vehicle through the snow, like something had crawled around it repeatedly. The farmhouse lights suddenly went dark, completely dark, even from outside. I could hear screaming inside the house, Walter screaming, then silence. I didn't know what else to do, so I ran toward the woods. Snow crunched loudly beneath my boots as I sprinted between trees. I kept expecting headlights or gunshots behind me, but there was nothing. After maybe 10 minutes, I finally stopped to catch my breath. That's when I noticed the woods were completely silent. No wind. No animals. Nothing. Then came the sound, branches snapping slowly behind me. I turned my flashlight toward the trees. At first, I saw nothing. Then the beam caught eyes, too high off the ground. The thing stood partially behind a tree, maybe 30 yards away. Pale skin, long arms hanging almost to the ground, watching me. It didn't move. Neither did I. Then it smiled. I know how stupid that sounds, but I swear it smiled at me. Its mouth stretched unnaturally wide across its face. I ran again. I don't even remember most of that run through the woods. I fell several times, lost my flashlight, smashed my knee on a rock. Eventually I reached the road. A snowplow driver found me stumbling down the shoulder near dawn. I kept trying to explain what happened, but I sounded insane even to myself. Police did investigate the farmhouse later that day. Walter was gone. No body, no blood, nothing. The basement existed, but according to the police, it only contained old animal cages and storage shelves. No giant cage. No creature. No signs anyone else had been down there. The weirdest part? The officers asked me why I had broken into Walter's house in the first place. Turns out Walter had called the police about me 2 weeks earlier after catching me snooping around his property at night. I honestly don't remember doing that. Maybe I drove by more than once before breaking in. Maybe he knew I'd come back eventually. Walter disappeared completely after that. No bank activity, no relatives, nothing. The farmhouse was demolished about a year later after teenagers kept trespassing there. I quit the repair company not long after. For years, I convinced myself the thing in that basement was just some sick person Walter kept locked away. Maybe someone abused for so long they barely looked human anymore. That explanation helped me sleep at night. Until last winter, I was driving home late from work during a snowstorm. When traffic stopped near a wooded stretch of highway, there had been an accident. Ahead, watching the cars dot even from that distance, I recognized the shape of that smile.